Your 401k balance is just a number sitting on a screen until you compare it against something meaningful. And the most meaningful comparison available to any retirement saver is not last year's market return, or your neighbor's account balance, or some generic savings goal you read in a magazine 10 years ago. It is the age-based benchmark, the research-backed savings target tied specifically to how old you are right now and how many working years you have remaining. This benchmark tells you the truth about your retirement trajectory, and most Americans have never seen it. Here is the fundamental problem with how most Americans think about their 401k balance. They look at the number and ask one question: is this a lot of money? It is the wrong question entirely. A balance of $200,000 means something completely different for a 35-year-old with 30 years of compound growth ahead of them than it does for a 58-year-old with 7 years until retirement. The number in isolation tells you almost nothing meaningful about your retirement security. The number compared against an age-specific benchmark tells you almost everything. The concept of age-based retirement savings benchmarks was developed and popularized by financial research institutions studying the relationship between savings rates, investment returns, income levels, and retirement outcomes across millions of Americans over multiple decades. The most widely cited framework comes from Fidelity Investments, whose research team analyzed retirement outcomes across a massive data set of real accounts and developed a series of savings multipliers tied to specific ages. These multipliers give every working American a clear, simple, and actionable target for how much they should have saved relative to their current annual income at each major age milestone. The framework works like this. At each benchmark age, your target 401k balance is expressed as a multiple of your current annual gross income, not a fixed dollar amount, because a fixed dollar amount ignores the enormous variation in income and therefore lifestyle costs across different Americans. A multiple of income is a far more accurate and personally relevant measure because it scales directly to what your retirement actually needs to replace. Understanding these benchmarks serves three critical purposes for every retirement saver. First, it gives you an honest assessment of whether your current savings trajectory leads to retirement security or retirement struggle. Second, it creates a specific and motivating target for each decade of your working life rather than a vague someday goal that never creates urgency. Third, it tells you exactly how much ground you need to make up if you are behind, and gives you the time horizon within which that ground can realistically be recovered. The benchmark is not a judgment. It is a navigation tool, and in the chapters ahead, we are going to use it to map exactly where you stand and exactly what you need to do about it. Now that you understand why the benchmark matters, in Chapter 2, the actual numbers come out for every age from your 30s through your 60s, and some of these targets are going to surprise you. This is the chapter most people skip straight to when they find this video. And I understand why. Because after years of vague retirement advice and generic savings guidance, what most Americans desperately want is a specific number for their specific age that tells them clearly and honestly whether they are on track or falling behind. Here are those numbers, updated for 2026, based on the latest retirement research, and broken down age by age so you can find your benchmark in the next 60 seconds. Let's go through the age-based 401k benchmarks that financial researchers and retirement planners use in 2026 to assess retirement savings adequacy. These benchmarks are expressed as multiples of your current annual gross income, meaning you multiply your salary by the benchmark number to find your personal savings target for your age. At age 30, the benchmark is 1 times your annual income. If you earn $60,000 per year, your 401k target at 30 is $60,000. This milestone is about establishing the savings habit and allowing compound growth to begin working in your favor over the next 3.5 decades of your working life. At age 35, the benchmark rises to 2 times your annual income. $70,000 earner, $140,000 target. This is where consistent saving and employer match compounding begins to show meaningful results in account balances. At age 40, the benchmark jumps to 3 times your annual income. This is a critical checkpoint. Your 40s are typically your peak earning decade, and the 401k balance you carry into this decade sets the trajectory for everything that follows. An $80,000 earner should be targeting $240,000 by 40. At age 45, the benchmark reaches 4 times your annual income. This is where the gap between consistent savers and inconsistent savers begins to widen dramatically and becomes increasingly difficult to close. At age 50, the benchmark is 6 times your annual income. A $100,000 earner should have $600,000 saved by 50. This is also the age at which catch-up contributions become available, allowing savers over 50 to contribute an additional $7,500 per year to their 401k above the standard limit. At age 55, the benchmark reaches 7 times your annual income. The retirement horizon is now visible, and savings urgency should be at its absolute peak during this decade. At age 60, the benchmark is 8 times your annual income. With 5 years remaining until traditional retirement age, this target reflects the final accumulation push before the transition from saving to income generation begins. At age 67, full retirement age for most Americans, the benchmark is 10 times your annual income. This is the finish line of the accumulation phase and the starting point of the income generation phase that will need to sustain your lifestyle for potentially 30 more years. Now you have your benchmark. But in Chapter 3, I need to show you what happens to the majority of Americans who look at these numbers and realize they are significantly behind, and more importantly, exactly what they can do about it. If you just compared your 401k balance to the benchmark for your age and the number fell short first, take a breath. You are not alone. Research consistently shows that the majority of Americans at virtually every age are behind the benchmark we just covered. But here is what separates the people who catch up from the people who do not. It is not income. It is not luck. It is not the market. It is a specific set of decisions made with urgency in the years immediately following the moment they realized they were behind. Let me show you exactly what those decisions look like. Being behind the age-based 401k benchmark is extraordinarily common in America in 2026. The median 401k balance for Americans in their 40s is approximately $45,000, far below the 3 to 4 times income benchmark that research suggests they should be carrying at that stage of their working life. The median balance for Americans in their 50s sits at approximately $87,000, again, dramatically below the 6 to 7 times income target for that decade. If you are behind the benchmark, you are in the majority. But majority membership offers no financial comfort in retirement. So let us talk about what catching up actually looks like in practice. The single most powerful tool available to Americans who are behind the benchmark is the catch-up contribution provision available to savers over age 50. In 2026, the standard 401k contribution limit is $23,500 per year. Americans over 50 can contribute an additional $7,500 per year in catch-up contributions, bringing their total annual 401k contribution limit to $31,000. For savers in their 50s who are aggressively trying to close a benchmark gap, this catch-up provision is one of the most valuable financial tools in the entire retirement system. The second most powerful catch-up strategy is expense reduction redirected into savings. Most Americans carrying a significant benchmark gap are also carrying lifestyle expenses that could be meaningfully reduced without dramatically impacting quality of life. A systematic audit of monthly spending with specific reductions redirected into retirement contributions can add $10,000 to $20,000 of additional annual savings capacity without increasing income at all. The third strategy is income expansion, specifically directed at retirement savings. Side income, consulting work, part-time employment, monetized skills, any additional income stream that can be entirely directed into retirement accounts dramatically accelerates the benchmark recovery timeline. The fourth strategy is delaying retirement by 2 to 3 years beyond your original target. Every additional working year does three things simultaneously. It adds another year of contributions, it allows another year of compound growth, and it reduces the number of retirement years your savings must support. The combined mathematical impact of working 2 additional years when you are behind the benchmark is often larger than 5 years of aggressive catch-up saving earlier in your career. Behind the benchmark is a starting point, not a final destination. Catching up is absolutely possible. But in Chapter 4, I want to show you the mistakes that keep people perpetually behind the benchmark, no matter how hard they try to catch up, and how to avoid every single one. Here is something that confuses most retirement savers. They are contributing to their 401k consistently. They are not making dramatic financial mistakes. They are living reasonably within their means. And yet year after year they look at the age benchmark and they are still behind, sometimes by more than they were the previous year. How is that possible? Because there are 4 specific behaviors that quietly and relentlessly destroy 401k growth, even in accounts with consistent regular contributions. And most people doing these things have absolutely no idea the damage they are causing. The first benchmark killer is the 401k loan. It sounds harmless. You are borrowing from yourself. You pay yourself back with interest. The marketing language around 401k loans is carefully designed to make them feel financially neutral. They are not neutral. When you take a loan from your 401k, the borrowed amount is immediately removed from your investment portfolio and stops generating market returns for the entire duration of the loan repayment period. On a $50,000 loan over 5 years, at a period when the market averages 8% annual returns, you lose approximately $23,000 in foregone compound growth, in addition to the administrative fees and the double taxation on the repaid interest. Vanguard's research shows that 401k loan activity is one of the strongest predictors of below benchmark retirement balances across every age group they studied. The second benchmark killer is the cash out at job change. When Americans change employers, they have the option to roll their 401k balance into their new employer's plan, or into an IRA, or to cash it out entirely. Cashing out triggers immediate income taxes on the full balance plus a 10% early withdrawal penalty for anyone under 59 and a half. And yet research consistently shows that a significant percentage of Americans cash out their 401k when changing jobs, particularly younger workers with smaller balances who underestimate the long-term compound growth they are destroying with that single decision. The third benchmark killer is contribution rate stagnation. Most Americans set their 401k contribution percentage once, often at the default rate their employer selected during automatic enrollment, and never increase it as their income grows. A 3% contribution rate that was appropriate on a $40,000 starting salary becomes entirely inadequate on a $90,000 mid-career salary. Your contribution rate must grow proportionally with your income or your benchmark gap widens every time you receive a raise. The fourth benchmark killer is high-fee investment selection within the 401k plan. Many 401k plans offer a mix of low-cost index funds and high-cost actively managed funds. The difference between a fund with a 0.05% expense ratio and a fund with a 1.2% expense ratio seems trivial in any single year. Over 30 years on a growing balance, the cost difference can consume tens of thousands of dollars in returns that should have been compounding in your account. Avoid these 4 killers and your benchmark trajectory changes dramatically. Now that you know what to avoid, in the final chapter, I am giving you the complete 2026 action plan to hit your benchmark at every age and retire with the financial security you have spent a lifetime building toward. Every number in this video, every benchmark, every target, every multiplier, is completely useless without one thing: a specific actionable plan to move your actual balance toward your actual target, starting with decisions you can make today. Not someday. Not next open enrollment period. Today. Because the single most expensive retirement mistake in America is not making the wrong investment choice or missing a market rally. It is waiting. Waiting costs more than almost any other financial mistake you can name. So here's your 2026 action plan. Let us build it right now. The 2026 action plan for hitting your age-based 401k benchmark begins with 3 immediate actions that every retirement saver should complete before this video ends, regardless of their current age or current balance. Immediate action 1 is logging into your 401k account today and confirming 2 specific things. First, confirm that you are contributing at least enough to capture your full employer match. If your employer matches 50% of contributions up to 6% of salary, and you are contributing less than 6%, you are leaving guaranteed free money uncollected every single paycheck. This is the single highest return investment decision available to any 401k participant, and it costs you nothing except the decision to capture it. Second, confirm that your contribution rate is set to automatically escalate by 1% annually. If auto escalation is not activated, turn it on today. Immediate action 2 is reviewing every investment option inside your 401k and confirming that your allocations are in low-cost, broadly diversified index funds rather than high-cost, actively managed alternatives. If your plan offers a total market index fund or an S&P 500 index fund with an expense ratio below 0.1%, that is almost certainly a better long-term choice than actively managed alternatives charging 10 to 20 times more in annual fees. Immediate action 3 is calculating your personal benchmark gap using the multipliers from Chapter 2 and writing that specific dollar amount on paper, not typing it into a phone note. Writing it on paper where you will see it regularly. The benchmark gap is not a source of shame. It is a project specification. It tells you exactly how much work needs to be done and by when. For savers in their 30s, the priority is establishing maximum contribution habits now, while compound growth has the most time to work. Every dollar contributed at 32 is worth approximately $10 at retirement. The math of early consistent saving is so powerful that even modest amounts accumulated consistently through your 30s create an extraordinary foundation. For savers in their 40s, the priority is income growth paired with contribution rate increases. Every raise should trigger an immediate contribution rate increase that captures at least half the income growth before lifestyle inflation absorbs it entirely. For savers in their 50s, the priority is maximum contributions, including catch-up provisions, combined with aggressive Roth conversion planning and a specific retirement date built around your personal Rule of 10 calculation. Your benchmark is waiting, your action plan is clear. Your retirement is worth fighting for every single day between now and your freedom date. If this video gave you your benchmark number and a clear plan to reach it, hit that like button right now. Subscribe for weekly retirement education that is this specific and this actionable. And drop your age and your honest assessment in the comments. Are you ahead of the benchmark or behind it? The conversation in the comments section of this video might be the most valuable retirement discussion you have ever been part of.